What's going on, y'all? 805 Just here, Just 805, representing the 8, the 0, the 5. Shout out to all my 805ers, everybody all around and all across Ventura County. And even shout out to those up the coast, up the PCH, those in the Malibu area, outside of the 805, but, still right off the coast. Even those in the opposite direction, in SB, Santa Barbara. Some of y'all got 805 on your phone line still, what I'm saying, on your phone number. So shout out to y'all, but everybody in the 805 within Ventura County, especially shout out to my birthplace, my hometown, Ventura, and Oxnard as well. Let's get right into it, y'all. Let's get right into it. No need to beat around the bush. I don't know if y'all can feel it, but kind of like, how do I word this? There's kind of like not a shift, but okay, I'll just word it like this. I don't know when y'all are scheduled to vote, right? I don't know if y'all are early voters. I don't know if y'all are the mail it in people. You get the ballot in the mail. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if y'all actually go to the polls. I don't know what y'all preference is when it comes to voting, especially for the president, the next president of the United States. But as we get closer and closer, to learning who the next president of the United States will be, me personally, I could feel it. You know what I'm saying? I could feel it's not like a shift, but it's almost like, oh, okay, we're almost there. We're almost there. It's kind of like, as a kid or as a teenager, you're going on a roller coaster and you're going to the top and, you're hearing that roller coaster, click and tick, click, 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 tick, 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 as you get closer and closer to the top and it's like, oh, we about to go. It's about to be on. It's about to be cracking. That's how it feels right now, to me at least, regarding these candidates that we have before us. Kamala Harris on the Democratic side, and her running mate and vice president, Tim Walz, I think his last name Walz, if I'm not mistaken. And then on the Republican side, you have former President Donald Trump and his running mate, Vice President hopeful JD Vance. To me, I'll say this, even though entire reason for the video, the reason that I feel that because we are getting close on the calendar, we are getting close, right? We're getting close to that day, but I could feel it without even looking at the calendar. Why? To me, we've seen it in the last couple years, but to me, we're actually seeing the shift in media. We're seeing a shift in broadcasting when it comes to not only covering presidential candidates, but interviews with presidential candidates. The game has changed, y'all. The game has changed, and I've talked about it before. This is someone who comes from working in cable television, who comes from working in behind the scenes in TV on nationally syndicated television programs and whatnot. So for me, it's really interesting to see this as a TV guy, as someone who pay attention to ratings and things like that. The kids, man, the youth of today, if you're paying attention, if you got nieces, nephews, maybe even kids that are in their teens right now, the internet has changed things with YouTube, with all these streaming websites, social media. We're seeing, I'm seeing these presidential candidates make their normal rounds. You see them on, CNN and Fox News and ABC News and CBS News, all the major news channels and networks, right? But you're also seeing them go to podcasts. You're seeing them go to streamers and people like that, which is very interesting. I think from this point on, presidential elections and the way candidates run for president, it will never be the same because the internet is only going to continue to expand. Social media is going to continue to expand, and I don't consider myself old. I'm getting old. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting old. Especially my next birthday will be one of those like, oh man, I'm getting old type of birthdays, right? But I feel like no matter what age you're at right now, you could probably see this only because the frequency is less. I mean, let's just even think about it. Kamala Harris and Trump, they only did one debate. We usually see more than one debate, almost guaranteed. I would say every presidential race or every time, we have president hopefuls and presidential candidates. The debates are pretty much locked in. That there's going to be more than one for sure. So we only had one. And then I think it was this week or last week they announced that Trump was going on the Joe Rogan podcast. Now, most of you out there are probably familiar with Joe Rogan. If you're not, Joe Rogan really came to fame, I would say, at least, when I was growing up and first became familiar with him. He was the host of Fear Factor, really popular reality show, action reality show. I don't know if it started in, late 90s, like 99, but I know it was early 2000s for sure. I remember it being on TV. I remember my friends watching it. I remember, it was a big thing. So he was the host of Fear Factor. He's a mixed martial arts UFC guy. Like he grew up, doing karate and, MMA and UFC and all that, and ended up becoming basically a host or analyst, for UFC and MMA fights. So outside of the podcast that he does, on his own, he's usually seen on weekends, doing UFC fights. He's the main analyst. He's the main commentator for the UFC and UFC fights. So he's, I would say, pretty popular. He's definitely one of the most well-known podcasters out there. He has millions of subscribers, millions of listeners. And see, I personally don't know for sure, and I don't want to say it because, I don't want to be wrong. I don't know for sure what his political stance is. From what I've seen and heard, it seems like he leans, to the Republican side. Like, I don't think I've ever heard him say, or, I've heard anyone say specifically that he did vote, for Trump to win in the previous election before Joe Biden, was elected president. But I know, to my knowledge, he has a lot of principles, a lot of standards that more align with, the Republican Party and that type of thing. So I'm sure we'll find out whenever this episode, airs, whenever it drops, if it is, uploaded on YouTube, like the majority of his podcast episodes are. But to my knowledge, he leans, basically left. He leans or supports or, aligns himself closely with the Republican Party. So Trump's going to be on there. I'm sure that episode is going to do crazy views. It's going to do a lot. Kamala Harris, I think it was last week or the week before, she did this like radio town hall. I think that's what they called it, with the Breakfast Club. The Breakfast Club radio program out of New York. And that seemed to get a lot of views. So it's just interesting to see, for me, other people might not care, but me being, like I said, having worked in TV, on the cable side, on the entertainment side, as well as, being a journalist and interviewing people and doing stories and reporting, on hard news, what they call it or used to call it, not the fun stuff that I do now on this channel. It's really interesting to me because, I've seen enough elections, I've seen enough presidents to see where, like I mentioned before, the debate is the big thing. The debate is live, it's on cable, or, the more than one debate that they do, the debates is where, the candidates really get to, go to battle, and that's where the ratings are tested. And that's where, you see these advertisements from, major American companies and whatnot, where now it's like you could be running for president and you're really sitting down in somebody's studio, and not like a major network studio. You're sitting in somebody's studio at home, or you're sitting in somebody's, studio that they rent, and it's a podcast episode, or, you're with a streamer and they're streaming live from their phone or live from their camera, or they're, on social media, on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. You know what I mean? So it's just interesting to see. And like I told y'all before, I have that feeling right now that as we get closer and closer to that day, where we find out who the next president is, it's starting to heat up, and you're starting to see, you know, Kamala and Donald Trump go back to back interviews. You know, they're on this show one day, then they're on this radio show the next day. They're on this podcast one day, they're sitting down with this celebrity the next day. They mentioned something about Kamala Harris doing something with Beyonce in Houston. I don't know if that happened already or not. I got to look that up. I think that's upcoming. I don't think that has happened yet. But you know that's going to be crazy because, you know, Beyonce, you know, whether you listen to her music or not, you know, is one of the most famous, you know, popular humans and, you know, singers and artists, entertainer, and, you know, in the entire, not only country, but the world, I would say. So that should be interesting to see, you know, how many people tune into that or how many people attend that, however that's going to work. And we just got to basically, you know, stay tuned. I know, you know, maybe some of y'all have voted already or are getting ready to vote. So once they start crunching those numbers, you know, let the games begin. It's on. So I'm just sitting back. I'm enjoying it. I'm watching it. I'm observing. And, you know, soon, y'all, we will know who's going to be the next president of these United States. So, you know, we'll see what happens. Thank y'all again, as always, for subscribing to the channel. I really appreciate y'all. And for those that aren't subscribed, but, you know, you do watch and you contribute, you know, you like the videos, you do comment, I appreciate y'all as well. You know, I really do appreciate y'all. And, you know, I'm glad every time, you know, you come back and view a video and view the content. We have a good time here. You know, we have a good time here. So thank y'all. And as always, peace.